This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
This week on Off the Record, Cats riders fuss over where's the bus, waiting 2 hours plus on routes that are supposed to run every half hour. CMS schools get their share of this year's Mecklenburg budget. Is it more than CMS deserves or not enough to solve CMS's problems? At City Hall, seeing is believing as neighbors use traffic video from a drone to fight plans for a new apartment complex. And bad odds for a sports betting bill in Raleigh. Plus, Charlotte loses a racing legend. The mystery of more toll lanes on I-77, case number 1 of monkeypox here in North Carolina, and donut-flavored ice cream at Krispy Kreme. Lots to talk about next on PBS Charlotte. And from our PBS Charlotte studios in historic Plaza Midwood, I'm Jeff Sonnier, and we're off the record talking about the stories you've been talking about this week. And if you watch the news, read the news, and listen to the news, well, you'll recognize the names and faces around our virtual table. Steve Crump from WBTV, Tony Messia from the Charlotte Ledger, and Eli Portillo from the UNC Charlotte Urban Institute. Thanks for joining us. You can also join the conversation at home. Just email your questions and comments to offtherecord@WTVI.org. Let's talk first about Cats in the bus system. We read and heard a lot this week about problems that Cats is having specifically with bus service. Bus service, I don't think anyone chooses to ride the bus. It's a necessity for most of the folks who are on those buses on a daily basis. But right now, the system simply isn't running like it should or could. Tony, you did a lot of reporting on that this week. You want to start us off?
Sure, Jeff. It just seems like there's just rising frustration among bus riders about buses that aren't showing up, that are late, that they wait. You know, the bus is supposed to come at 5. They're there a little before 5, and no bus comes until 6:30, for example. And it's a real problem. I mean, and I think in increasing terms, they're saying this is a crisis. This is unconscionable. This is unacceptable. And CATS recognizes that there's a problem in reliability, which they say stems from the lack of bus drivers, the inability to hire bus drivers. And then this week also added a new wrinkle to that, saying that it's because of the union contract with drivers, in which drivers are allowed to take 10 days per quarter off as unexcused absences without any consequence, so 40 days a year. So it's creating scheduling problems for drivers, creating a huge problem with bus reliability. I talked to a bunch of riders at the Charlotte Transportation Center this week. Again, extremely frustrated. These are folks that rely on the buses to get to work, to get to the doctor. And, if you don't ride the bus, you might say, oh, well, it doesn't really affect me. Well, this city has spent a lot of time and a lot of money at trying to address these questions of economic mobility, and to have a dysfunctional bus system is really a problem.
Yeah, and the reasons behind the problem, the contract that the bus drivers operate under, there's nothing new about that. This is a contract and a benefit that they've had for years. It just seems odd that suddenly it's become a huge scheduling problem that's, shaken the bus system and put riders, as you said, at a real disadvantage. I mean, it sounds like excuse making. It doesn't really sound like a valid reason that we'd be having problems right now that we haven't had in the past.
Well, I think the timing is very unfortunate from the standpoint of where you look at the fact that we're paying $5 a gallon for gas, and in many regards, we've seen it over the years when there's been, spikes at the gas pumps, that ridership goes up, on light rail as well as regular buses. And so it's one of those things where there's an opportunity for CATS, but at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword where there are people using public transportation for the first time. They're rarely, uses public transportation, but on the consumer side of it. But in terms of what it is CATS is doing, they're not necessarily, delivering, the goods and or services as far as getting folks from point A to point B.
Yeah, Eli?
Yeah, and this is a crisis that's been building for a while. Tony and I reported in the Transit Time newsletter back in February that CATS was having 100+ unscheduled bus operator absences every day. It didn't get that much attention then, but now it's still ongoing. CATS is now tweeting out every morning the number of unscheduled bus operator absences that they have. It's 92 this morning. And they need almost 300 operators to run the bus system every day as it should be run. So having almost around 100 operators a day having unscheduled absences obviously is not sustainable. Just to put this in a bigger context, trains get a lot more attention. They're sexier, the light rail, the development in South End and north of Uptown. But buses have been the workhorse of Charlotte's transit system and still carry the majority of riders. These are largely, almost 3/4 African American. 2/3 of them are commuting to work, and a majority of them are low income. So our transit system is really not serving these riders who need it the most. And excuse me, as Tony said, in many cases are waiting for hours. On top of that, CATS is trying to arrange, a new transit plan that would require legislative and voter approval for a new 1-cent sales tax. And it's going to be really hard for them to generate any support for this and get over those hurdles and get the 1-cent sales tax that they need for billions and more funding when they're having this degree of reliability problems with the system that we have now.
Yeah, we've heard a lot.
The other question you got to ask, though, is you go back to earlier this year when you had the CATS bus that was fatally shot uptown, from the standpoint of where, okay, there's some issues with the contract, but then again, how legitimate are some of the concerns as it relates to safety and security as well?
Yeah, and there was another shooting. No one was killed in it, fortunately, but there was another shooting last month where a rider and a driver got into a verbal dispute, and the rider is accused of shooting 4 times into the bus. Bus drivers are not happy. They have said publicly they feel unsafe. There's still, COVID cases going on, and this is a hard job that doesn't pay fantastically, that requires in-person attendance, and it's a shortage in operators that we're seeing across the nation and other cities are dealing with as well.
Council member Tariq Bokhari has been outspoken in his criticism of CATS. He says he won't vote for more funding until there's a structural change in the leadership there. And it does raise the question, with all the money that, we are spending on transit, and we apparently want to spend on transit going forward, these are the kinds of things that, they undermine the confidence in not just the system itself, but in the way our dollars are being spent. The other thing I wonder about too is this creation of what kind of feels like a 2-tiered transit system. There's the transit system for people who that we spend most of the money on, trains, that doesn't really serve the majority of people who really need transit. I mean, these are bedrock questions, I suppose, that go beyond just buses not showing up, on time, right?
Yeah, Tony, can you speak to some of the people who you talk to who really have to have the bus?
Yeah.
Sure. I talked to a few at the transportation center this week. One was heading to a doctor's appointment on Randolph Road. He lived off Briar Creek. He needed to transfer at the transportation center. He said, the thing just doesn't show up. Talked to another guy who was going uptown from Monroe Road, has a job at a pizza place uptown, and he said he moved here from West Virginia a couple months ago, and since then he's had about 12 buses that just haven't showed up. He's been late for work. He said, fortunately, I run fast. So he's able to maybe make up some of the difference. But actually, he said, if you talk about a sick burn on the bus system, he said the bus system in West Virginia was much more reliable than it is in Charlotte. So, it's just a real problem. You're also seeing, Jeff, the ridership numbers of the bus way down. So some of these reliability problems, I think people are just saying they're just not going to do it. Amazingly, the number of people riding local buses in Charlotte last month is still below the number in May of 2020. That was in the middle of the worst part of the pandemic when we were under stay-at-home orders. The numbers of bus riders is absolutely cratering, and we're spending a whole bunch of money on it. Certainly, I think, as you pointed out, problems with the buses, I think problems with the Gold Line. Blue Line seems to be running pretty well, but a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I think you guys also got to ask the question about the ripple effect on the economy, because if you have people going to work at restaurants and other businesses, how forgiving are those employers? Because a lot of times, they're punching a clock literally, far as their hours are concerned, and the hardship that might even come if a business has to open very late in order to accommodate the needs of the public.
Yeah, you know, and with gas, as you mentioned, at $5 a gallon or on our way to $5 a gallon, you would think that ridership would be rising. But apparently the problems with the bus system or the scheduling of the bus system don't offset, you know, that cost. Anyway, you know, bottom line, and these are numbers from your story, Tony, 78% of the riders, the bus riders in CATS are African American, 63% are commuters, 47% make less than $25,000 a year. These are the voices that we really don't hear from often on a lot of problems in Charlotte. I guess this is just the latest problem in Charlotte where, you know, until we talk about it, until you write about it, you know, these problems go unanswered, and these folks are at the mercy of a system they truly need but can't depend on right now. That's a shame. It really is. Yeah, let's change gears for a few moments and talk about CMS. The county approved its budget this week and gave CMS not quite what it wanted, but more than the county manager was recommending. You know, this is another situation where we've got leadership at CMS and questions about its ability to spend money wisely. Can we talk a little bit about, first of all, the whole debate between does CMS deserve more or does it need more because of the problems they have? Anyone want to go take first crack at that?
Seems like kind of an ongoing debate between the county and CMS, that CMS always asks for a certain amount of money. The county comes back with a lower amount, and then they tangle over, we really need this money to educate kids versus you're not producing the results that we want to see. So it's just sort of an ongoing, yearly battle. It seems like they're having. So I think it's just a continuation of that.
Yeah, and CMS has never been its own taxing authority, and again, as Tony was saying, it has to go back to the county every year to ask for X number of dollars, and it's kind of the back and forth where, I guess it's the carrot and stick in some regards, because you end up with the county saying, well, look, we give you this money, but graduation rates are off, test scores are down in that regard. So I'm just wondering if there's ever a scenario where members of the school board go to the county to say, okay, just like, you have performance-based kinds of things that happen in various companies. In other words, if there are benchmarks that collectively the county as well as the school board can get to, maybe, you won't necessarily have the bickering that comes up this time every year.
Yeah, and right now we still have, of course, an interim superintendent. I think it's going to be interesting next year, hopefully, if a permanent superintendent is in place, to see if anyone is capable of shifting this kind of repetitive dynamic we see every year. Yeah. Because we kind of know what's going to happen. CMS is going to ask for X, the county's going to counter with half of X, and then they'll settle at 75% of X. It's kind of predictable. And I do think that'll be a big challenge for a new permanent superintendent when that person is hired, to see if they can break out of that rut.
Yeah. We also saw the business community reach out this week to CMS, making a deal with them to loan them executives, over 1,000 volunteer tutors. I wonder if this is maybe an effort to, make CMS more efficient, more responsible, like businesses are, answering for their problems and showing results. I mean, accountability is commonplace in the business world. Does this mean maybe that CMS gets a dose of business world accountability with this program with the business executives?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it's nice. There's a lot of expertise in our community on a lot of different things. And for our school system, for our public school system to succeed, it really needs the buy-in from the entire community. You can't just say, well, the schools are operating kind of on their own island. They do need tutors, they need volunteers, they need expertise. And there's a lot of that. So to the extent they can formalize some of those relationships, it seems like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing is, how does CMS sell its story? You talk about the assistance is coming in from the private sector, but also, the question becomes is, what's the performance in terms of proof of performance, and how do they, more or less showcase what's going right, rather than, when you get to this time of the year where it becomes the bickering again. In other words, how do they make themselves look good, so when they go ask for money, they're able to kind of, get some things, without any controversy.
Yeah. I don't know we'll ever see the day without controversy when it comes to CMS and its budget issues. But that's I guess it's done for this year, and I'm not sure if that X and then half of X and meet halfway. I'm not sure a lot of kids could solve that problem currently with test scores the way they are. But let's move on. Hey, Eli, you tweeted out something, a phrase this week called "denser sprawl," in response to a project that the city council was looking at, an apartment project out near the Arboretum. Can you want to talk a little bit about what that means and how we're seeing some of what we see in South End and Uptown moving out to places farther out in the suburbs?
Yeah, so I mean, this particular project is up for a rezoning hearing this week, and would involve adding more than 200 apartments to the Legacy Arboretum, where there are already, about 260 apartments, I believe, there. So you're adding density to an area, but it's farther out. It's not South End. It's not Uptown. It's where we've traditionally seen sprawling growth. And we've been seeing this trend for years in Charlotte, where there is a lot of denser development coming to areas that are around the city's periphery, places like Waverly, like the River District to the west, like Mint Hill, the Matthews Mint Hill area to the east, where previously you might have seen, a bunch of single family subdivisions. Now you're seeing a lot more apartments, denser apartments, mixed use developments. And that's what the city wants. It's what they've stated they want. It's what the plans they want to see enacted are really designed to do. But these are still areas that are farther out, that don't have great transit connections, that don't necessarily have great road infrastructure. So you're seeing a lot of anxiety around traffic and around, the traditional worries that you see when rezonings happen. Is this going to cause more congestion? How are the roads going to handle this? And that's what we saw from these neighbors in the Legacy Arboretum area who are opposed to this development, and we're asking City Council to block it.
And Tony, you talked about how the neighbors are fighting in this case with a little bit of technology of their own, right?
It was interesting at the City Council public hearing on this project. Usually neighbors get up and they say, "Oh, it's going to have a bad effect on traffic and schools," and everybody sort of nods. This time they actually came armed with a drone video. It was a 2-minute drone video that showed traffic along Pineville Matthews Road, just as probably no surprise to many, just wasn't moving at the time that Providence High School opened, 7:15 in the morning on a weekday. And they did that really to counter. The developer had a traffic study by Kimley Horn, which is a very respected traffic engineering firm, that said, well, it's only a couple hundred apartments. You spread that out over the course of a day. It's not really that many trips. It's not going to add that much to traffic. And the neighbor said, look, we did our own traffic study. We live it every day, and here's the video. And the council members seem pretty impressed by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the question that it raises is, one, the city has been saying for years and years they want more density, they want more density, they want more density. But when the rubber meets the road and a neighborhood is fighting back against some of that density, where is City Council going to fall on this? Are they going to say, actually, no, we don't want that density, or are they going to say, listen, we want more apartments, we want more density. Yeah, we're going to let them bring it in, even though the neighbors are opposed to it. And the other question is, as developments like this come up, people want to live here. If you don't allow developments like this, do they just get pushed to, Waxhaw, Monroe, and then you've got people driving in on Providence and Pineville Matthews roads and all those roads anyway, just driving farther? Yeah. So those are really two kind of big picture questions I think are worth thinking about here.
And the issue becomes, what do you do as it relates to the infrastructure to make sure all of it works?
Right. It is interesting, though, that neighbors finding a new tool that they've often felt outmanned, outgunned, if you will, by those developers on some of those big projects. But that use of drone footage over the numbers that were in the traffic study really seemed to have an impact on some of the council members who might not have been as familiar with the area. But and got a chance to see it through the eyes of those neighbors who live that traffic every day. Interesting. Hey, in Raleigh, they talked a lot and seemed to be on the verge of passing a bill this week allowing sports betting in North Carolina. But when the votes were counted, all bets are off, apparently, for now. The bill did not pass. Anyone want to talk about the politics of sports betting and why something that looked like a sure bet at one point now looks like it's, a long shot, if you will? Too many.
Yeah, I had them passing it with 3-1 odds, so I was very disappointed in that. But basically, it was a very close vote, 1 vote margin, Jeff. And you heard a range of objections from, hey, this is not biblical, to hey, this is really going to hurt folks who can least afford it. It was something that would have allowed betting lounges at Bank of America Stadium, Spectrum Center, Quail Hollow. But it might not be completely dead yet. It might be this session, but it's certainly going to come back.
And they had some, what they say, politics makes strange bedfellows. We had conservatives and liberals and Democrats and Republicans kind of choosing up sides, but together when they're usually apart on a lot of issues. This is really kind of a divisive thing, and it's not something new. I mean, a lot of other states are doing this now. I mean, it represents a lot of revenue, I suppose, for the state at some point.
Yeah, and North Carolina doesn't have medical marijuana, which a lot of states, even in the South, have passed. Some have even got recreational marijuana. It was only a few years ago that we were talking about the brunch bill and whether people could buy mimosas before noon. So, even though this is a purple state with kind of a progressive New South shine about it a lot of the time, we move pretty slowly on a lot of these issues, even compared to our neighbors sometimes.
Yeah, this may not be dead, but it's on life support right now, I suppose, in Raleigh, and we'll see if it comes back either this session or in a future session. We got to talk about Bruton Smith. Passed away this week at age 95. Colorful, combative, successful. A lot of folks, he's been around for so long and has made such an impact on the community in so many ways. We should talk a little bit about his accomplishments.
I think Bruton, in his own way, was more than a one-trick pony, because you look at so many of the things that he was involved in. If it weren't for Bruton Smith, in some regards, there wouldn't be a NASCAR Hall of Fame downtown. And I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is Bruton did a lot to drive the economy here, far as all the racing events that we have. And when you bring, hundreds of thousands of people, to our town, to our city, to spend money in hotels and to go well beyond the speedway on Highway 29. I mean, he was the guy that, contributed to the coffers, I guess, as far as tax revenues and the like. The other side, too, and it's the humanitarian side, is that Bruton and Speedway Charities, how they've given away tens of millions of dollars to children's causes around the country. And the other thing, as it relates to Bruton, even though his Sonic Automotive Group and the dealerships and the whole bit, where somebody as powerful, somebody as wealthy as Bruton, in some regards you would think would always be in high places. If you ever wanted an interview with Bruton some days, all you had to do was go to Town and Country Ford on Independence Boulevard.
Yeah, he didn't have he's a billionaire that didn't talk or look or live in many ways like a billionaire, and an innovator too. I mean, he really changed NASCAR. The lights on the track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, that was a first that a lot of folks didn't think would succeed in racing, and now it really changed the sport and turned it into a TV sport in many ways that it wasn't before. A real innovator and a real loss for the community. And we wish his family well. Monkeypox been talked about a lot in the national news. We saw our first case this week here in North Carolina, identified by the state health department. Nobody wants to see this, I suppose, but it is, we live in a society where, these things don't get confined in one particular region. Anything we should be overly concerned about at this point?
Well, the state health department said that this is primarily spread by prolonged close contact, physical contact with people who are infected. Has lesions, can be confused with herpes, appears to be spread sometimes through sexual contact. So it seems like they are trying to say, hey, this is not COVID part 2. This is not, a crazy contagious thing that is floating through the air. But at the same time, you're also seeing a lot of media stories right now. I just read in the Washington Post today, hey, the U.S. is making the same missteps that it made at the start of COVID in terms of underestimating things like spread. So it's certainly not something anybody wants to see again right now, just as we come out of the last 2.5 pandemic years.
Yeah, I think COVID has raised the awareness on a lot of these diseases and the threat that they pose when they spread. Toll lanes, very quickly, Business North Carolina did a story that mentioned that there's at least some talk about toll lanes from uptown to the South Carolina state line. Is that something we're going to see anytime soon? Tony, do you?
No, I don't think anything's coming anytime soon on that. I mean, and that sort of describes your experience on 77. You're not going anywhere anytime soon because there's a lot of congestion down there. But I mean, it's sort of this larger question of how do you pay to, maybe expand a section that needs to be expanded where there's a lot of traffic congestion. Of course, the state, short on money to do a lot of road projects. And so if you have a toll project, that could speed it up. Obviously, there's a lot of angst about, toll lanes on I-77 that, people up in Huntersville and Davidson are still mad about that. So it's, it's certainly not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, not when all the politicians that make those decisions are running in the opposite direction as quickly as possible. Hey, one last item, Krispy Kreme ice cream. Anyone going to line up and sign up for that?
Just in time for the heat wave, right?
I'm waiting to see what Dunkin' Donuts is going to do.
Yeah, well,
I want to know, do they have it at the vending machine, the Krispy Kreme vending machine in South End? Can you get the ice cream?
I'll be first in line for the taste test, folks. I'm all in. I guarantee you that. Hey, we're just about out of time. Thanks again for your participation. Great discussion this week. And at home, if you've got questions or comments about what we talked about this week or what we should talk about in the future, send them to offtherecord@WTVI.org. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Off the Record.
A production of PBS Charlotte.